In 2011, Disney released Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, and this meant that LEGO made a theme surrounding Pirates of the Caribbean. It took them a couple of years after the original 3 came out, which I think are pretty good movies. I don't think any of them are spectacular or anything, and On Stranger Tides, which I've only seen half of, is actually really shit, honestly. So, you know, it's not, the movies don't really matter as much as the LEGO theme does, because this LEGO theme's actually really good. We got a lot of great sets, most from 2011, we got one from 2013, and then for Pirates of the Caribbean 5 in 2017, we got one set. I'm going to be ranking all of those today. Now, I don't have much of a personal connection to Pirates of the Caribbean. In fact, I only watched most of these movies for the first time just this year, not that long ago, in preparation for this list. I love the Disney ride, but that's really about it. I don't have a personal connection. I have friends who really do, and I think they're the ones who influenced me the most to make this video. And also, it's just a great catalog of sets. So without further ado, let's get into it. In last place is set 4181 Isla de Muerta. So for this ranking, something you guys are definitely going to realize is that the builds have a lot more bearing than the minifigures. This isn't because the minifigures are bad, actually quite the opposite. All the minifigures are good in most sets, and in a lot of sets, most of the minifigures have an exclusivity which makes them just really unique. And I like that a lot. The figs here are pretty great. I'll start out with my least favorite of the figs, which is Skeleton Barbossa. I think this is still a decent fig. I love getting skeletons with different faces. I think that looks really cool. I think my main issue with this fig has got to be that Skeleton Barbossa, or Undead Barbossa in the movie, whatever you want to call it, does not look anything like this. It has more of a black, like, skeleton. It's a totally different color. I could understand why they didn't make it, you know, probably just because of printing costs, because LEGO has made 1,000 white skeletons before. They've never made black ones, and not to mention, that brown beard color might look weird. I mean, I don't think it's a bad fig at all. I really like that they have the boots at the bottom. That's pretty cool. And I like the little skeleton torso area. I think they have a lot more holes maybe than a normal skeleton. And they actually have like a nice little hip line. That's really cool. Honestly, it's a decent fig, just not my favorite. The next fig of the set I'll talk about is the Jack Sparrow. This fig is exclusive because of his face. I think Jack Sparrow in general is just a really good fig, but the cursed side of the face, I think, is just a nice little addition to it. Now, what I will say about the face, the cursed side looks a little odd because it looks like they just put the design, they laid it over the face, and they just lowered the opacity because you can still see the cheek lines in a weird way. I don't know. To me, it just looks like that. Maybe it's just the picture I'm looking at, to be honest. I mean, it's a solid fig. I love torso and leg details here. They just look amazing. They capture that essence of Jack Sparrow so nicely. And the hairpiece is one of a kind, truly. The amount of detail in it is absurd. All the chains and little, you know, charms or whatever. And then you got the nice bandana on top. I mean, it's a brilliant hairpiece for a brilliant fig. Next up is the Barbossa. And there's a lot of things to love about this fig, in my opinion. I love the hat with the half upwards bill on the side. I think that looks super nice, and it reminds me a lot of just Barbossa from any of the Pirates movies. I also really love the face print. As much as I think this figure would have benefited from coming out a couple of years later, you know, having a molded beard, considering how big Barbossa's beard is, you know, I think it's fine what they give us here, especially for 2011 standards. And I really like the torso and leg printing. It's super tight, and it has this really cool pattern in the middle. It just looks awesome. Honestly, a really great fig. And the last fig to talk about in the set is the Elizabeth Swan. This is a pretty good fig. I do think the hair color is a little off, though. I think just a normal brown hair would have looked better, but I don't know. That may just be me. I mean, otherwise than that, though, it's a solid fig. I like the little dress and torso printing. I think that looks real nice. I also think the face print's pretty decent for Elizabeth Swan. I mean, she doesn't have too much of a complexing face, and I think this one works well. It's honestly just a nice little fig. I just don't have too much to say about it. Moving on to the builds of the Isla de Muerta, this is where I'm a little iffy, honestly, because some of the builds are just alright, whatever, but it seems like kind of a mishmash. We get this little rowboat, you know, perfectly fine. It's a decent little thing. We get this chest full of treasure, which I perfectly get, considering that in the Isla de Muerta scenes from the first movie, there was just a lot of treasure scattered around, and it looked a lot like this, and I'm glad they gave us so many of these coin pieces in one set. I mean, this is really cool. The only set I could think of that has a lot of these coin pieces as well as the Krusty Krab, but I think those might be slightly different because of the back printing. Don't quote me on that, though. I could be completely wrong. But, I mean, it's just an average build. And then we get the main build itself, which is just kind of a hodgepodge. It's a little bit of a mess. I feel like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, only a year later, did these cave builds so much nicer. This one's just really whatever. I mean, there's a lot of little gold around, which is a cool little detail. They have a sideways flag as to indicate like a wrecked ship with a crow's nest, which is, I mean, all right, it's whatever. And then there's a play feature here, which is a decent little play feature. You put Barbossa on one side, undead Barbossa on the other, flip him around, boom, bang. You got a transformation play feature. Does it make sense? No, but it's a Lego set. I'm not going to criticize it for logical sense. I mean, in general, I'm just not impressed by this build at all. I really wish maybe they made it a slightly more expansive. Maybe they tried more of the cave work instead of adding a play feature, this little chest area. I mean, it's a solid set overall, though. It's a really good set. If this is at the bottom, it's going to be great from here. Up next on the ranking is set 4191, Captain's Cabin. This is a pretty unique and interesting set. It has some pretty cool builds and some nice minifigs. Now, I will say, while none of these characters are exclusive to this set, they're all pretty great figs. The Gunner Zombie and Yeoman Zombie, especially, who I haven't talked about yet, have amazing head and torso prints. Not to mention the Yeoman Zombie has a pretty cool hairpiece, obviously. I really love the Gunner Zombie's headpiece, though. That's just spectacular, in my opinion. I love the eye patch and the beautiful printing all around it. There are a couple interesting builds in this set. I really like this shelf area that they have. Of course, it kind of leads into nothing. It's more a modular thing. If you wanted to make like a ship, you could kind of place down those plates in there if you wanted to. I would just build a new shelf or whatever. But honestly, it's a sick build. I love the way that these bottles of rum are in there. It just looks super nice, especially with that angled way that they put it there. It's just brilliant with the clear, you know, bracket piece on the end. I just like that a lot. Not to mention the skull and the really long Lego bone, which is a part I don't think I have actually, and is a really cool part. I'm glad that they included that here, not just the small bone. It would have looked weird. I don't know. It just looks super nice. Not to mention the color scheme of just the brown and the gold. It's beautiful. Honestly, it's a really beautiful build. Oh, 2 more long bones on the side as well. Really nice. I love this area with the globe. Mainly because of the globe, because that's a sick ass piece, and anytime we can get it, it's just spectacular. And for it to come in such a small set like this is incredible. The rest of the build, though, it's whatever. The table's alright. I really like the way that they use the skeleton legs as the bottom. That's a pretty interesting detail. Not to mention they use that part, that 4-bar, you know, axis part in gold there on the bottom. That's pretty nice. And there's a really cool printed tile on the top, which I believe is the Maokun map. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that again. It's a sick way to be included in this set, you know, considering this is a small set. I do like this a little more than the last set I talked about. I just think this one is a lot better for the value, and I don't know. It's just a pretty cool set, honestly. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 4192, Fountain of Youth. This is a pretty decent set. It has some awesome minifigs and some, you know, decent little builds. The 2 figs of really note of the set are Blackbeard and the Hector Barbossa. I really like this Blackbeard. I love the beard they gave him. He's got to be my favorite fig of the set. He also has some great torso and leg printing. Also, if you take off his beard, there is a really cool head print down there. While I really like the hat and torso printing on the Barbossa fig, and also the legs, I mean, that's a pretty cool peg leg, not gonna lie. I think the face is slightly off. It would be really good if they added an external beard like they did with Blackbeard. Obviously, his beard's not as big as Blackbeard, but it is still very prevalent, and I do wish that they added that to this fig. Otherwise than that, though, I really do like this fig. Now, when we move on to the builds of this set, I'm a really big fan of this waterfall area in particular. I just love the way it's built up. Its use of those dark green bricks, those sloped on the side, is remarkable. Also, the slopes on the top look pretty cool, and they implemented that ivy piece in one of those cross axles instead of a normal modified brick. I think that actually looks pretty cool and is a really good usage of that part. Not to mention some of the molded bricks here. These 2 molded bricks on top of these stacks look really cool here. It's a really nice rock formation look. Not to mention that beautiful part in the back, the waterfall piece. I think this is maybe one of the only parts you can get to make look like an actual waterfall that is in Lego right now. It's really because of the translucent blue color, and there's not a lot of those in, say, sloped forms, so you can't really get it to look like a waterfall. So I think this is a spectacular look for that type of design. The fountain's really cool too. I'm a little less, you know, astonished by it than the waterfall, I guess you could say. I like the printed piece on top, and I like some of the water fixtures. More of these pieces in dark green, of course. That's pretty cool. There aren't many of these out there in this color, so it's nice to always get new bricks from a specific color, which is nice. Otherwise than that, though, it's a pretty alright build for a pretty good set. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 4182, the Cannibal Escape. This is a really solid set with some pretty good builds and some solid figs. With the figs, I'm going to start out with the Will. This is actually a really good fig. When it comes to Will Turner, you know, Orlando Bloom, I think this is kind of perfect in my opinion. The face is specialized and really nice, and I believe it's exclusive, and it looks awesome for the character. Not to mention, I think it's the right hairpiece. You know, I think it's the perfect length with the slicked back style. It just looks super nice. Torso and legs are pretty average, though. The torso, I guess, is okay. I do not like that it's a little, you know, the shade is just a little off on the torso for his skin, but that tends to happen with a lot of Lego figs, so I wouldn't say there's too much wrong there. And then there's the two Cannibal figs. I really like both of these. They're very heavily detailed. I really just like the way they look. I love the body paint, just the way that that's printed. I think I actually like the face print more on Cannibal 1 than I do on 2. 2, of course, has the mask and whatnot, but, I don't know. I guess I like the smirk, or, you know, just a little facial expression. And I like that there's actually the yellow paint on this. Those hair pieces are also really sick. And the fact that you can put the bone through them, mwah, just beautiful. Beautiful. And when we look at the 3 builds of the set, all of them are interesting in their own little way. First, I'm going to talk about the smallest, which is this fireplace area. Of course, this is like a fire on a pike where they were going to burn like Jack Sparrow and eat him or whatever, because they are cannibals, of course. Yeah, it's interesting. I like the way that the pike little thing is built, where you could just spin it around and have a human on there. I mean, that's a pretty cool feature for an official Lego set, I think. Otherwise than that, though, it's not that notable. I mean, they use those dark brown, like rounded 2x1 parts that are cool, I guess. That's about it. Then we move on to the throne, and I really like this throne build, honestly. It's so cool. I love the 3 skulls on top. That's just funny. Not to mention the sticker detailing on the back of this throne. I mean, it just adds so much to it. It just looks super nice. And I don't know. I just like the way it looks. Maybe I don't like how many of the colors change or whatnot, like where it goes from brown to dark tan to tan, and like I don't need that. Otherwise than that, though, I mean, I think it's a solid little area. Then we move on to like the main fort area, which is kind of like this nice little base. I don't know, I really like this build. I love the sticking out like a tree branch over to the right here, where it looks like a tree, and it's where the cage hangs off from. I think that looks super nice. Not to mention the cage is just a fantastic build. This skull and bones cage, which they're kept in at the beginning of the second movie, I mean, it just looks so cool the way that they converted it to Lego. I don't think I could have done it any better myself, or I don't even think they could have done it better themselves. It looks super nice. The build itself, pretty okay. I love the use of brown bricks, including that brown merp. I mean, that just looks cool here. I just think it looks super nice. We don't get a lot of little, like, outdoorsy builds, specifically, basically, like, all in brown, so this is kind of a cool change of pace for me, in my opinion. There isn't much of an interior, however. There's just a sack and, like, a box, and that's it. I mean, that's fine. I'm not asking for much. There's a parrot piece, though, so, you know, that's a dub. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 4193, the London Escape. This is a great set with some good builds and some fantastic figs. There are 5 figs in the set and 4 to talk about. We'll start with the Coachman. This is a fig who I really like. I do have one issue with him, however. That's the legs. They don't make any sense, like, continuity-wise to the fig. For some reason, his T-piece here, you know, the piece that connects the 2 legs, is black when there's no other black on the fig except for his beard and his hat. That's just odd to me, honestly. It doesn't fit the pattern right. Like, bro's not Batman, you know? Anyways, that's really the only thing I don't like about this fig. Otherwise than that, I love it. The torso print is really nice. It gives off this really slacky, you know, Pirates era vibe, and it looks awesome. And the face print's good. I know it's basic, but I think that's the reason I like it. It has such a 2-dimensional feel. It just looks nice, and I love the beard print. That just looks awesome. His hat's cool, too. Just a blank pirate hat, kind of. You know, every part of this fig's great. Next to talk about is the King George Soldier. He's a pretty good fig. I like his hat with the little white brim on the top. Not to mention he has a really great torso print for, you know, that's just kind of soldier-esque. You know, he's a red coat, so of course it looks like that. And otherwise than that, though, I mean, he's a solid fig. There really isn't much to talk about with him. He's just very basic, but I don't know. I like the way he looks. Next up is the King George's Officer. I actually like this fig a bit more than I do the Soldier. It's just a lot less basic. You know, otherwise than the hat, it has the feather going through, which is a really nice detail. I also like the head print on this one a lot. It's a great head print. The face with the orange stubble is really nice, honestly. I've always loved that face. It just looks super clean. The torso is a lot different. The torso is different from the other soldier, which is an awesome detail to have in this set. It's a really nice looking torso. I think I might like the one in the other fig a little more just because it incorporates the blue. This one has more like a dark bluish black, but it still looks really nice. All the button detail and whatnot is great. Oh yeah, and the gold shoulder cuffs are nice. Overall, just a really great fig. The last and one of the best figs of the set to talk about is the Joshua Gibbs. This fig is fantastic. It especially is because of the face print. This face print has so much detail to it. I really like it. The way that the beard color interchanges here is just fantastic. Not to mention the beard pattern itself. It goes from dark gray with the sideburns down to light gray and white with the chops. Then it goes into a stubble towards the middle like a 5 o'clock shadow. That's kind of awesome in my opinion. That detailing is fantastic for a fig, especially from 2011 when the set came out. I just really like the way it looks. His hairpiece goes well with it too. It's the right hairpiece to have for the figure. And the torso print is great. It has some nice detailing, of course, more button detailing, a nice raggedy shirt under with, you know, really good detailing of the off-center witness. It looks nice. And yeah, this is a fantastic fig. Let's move on to the builds of the set. There are 3 builds of the set. The first we'll talk about is the coal carriage, which is okay. I'm not the biggest fan of carriage builds in general, and this is just an alright version of one. Of course, it isn't modern. It doesn't have all the tiling that would make it look really nice, but I mean, it's alright. Like, there's nothing much for me to talk about. I guess I like the little torch in the front, the little light. That's cool. And the coal itself has some cool detailing and tiling. But otherwise than that, not much to talk about. Oh, white horse. Of course, there's a white horse. Then we have the passenger carriage, which is a decent build. I really like the green incorporation, you know, the dark green. Again, that's been a theme in a lot of these sets, just great incorporation of unique colors. I also like the doors on the carriage using those, you know, car hood pieces. I think that looks really nice. Otherwise than that, though, I'm not the biggest fan of this carriage, to be honest. It's really flat. Obviously, it is 2011. Tiling wasn't as good as it is now, but still, it just is kind of an average build to me. They just, like, I feel like anyone could have built this. It doesn't feel that unique. The front is decent at least they tried some tiling there, but otherwise than that, like, it's just kind of mid. Honestly, it's a mid-ass carriage build, though the brown horse is really nice. Obviously, every type of horse in Lego is nice. Then we have the tavern itself, which I think is actually a really cool build. I know it's not much, but I really like it, honestly. I love the detailing here. I just love the way that it's built up. Obviously, it's very basic. There's not a lot of texturing. In fact, the roof is kind of just a panel laying down at an angle, which some people may think looks bad. I don't really mind the way it looks that much on the set. I mean, they tried to do a little bit by adding the grate, the 2x1 grate pieces on top, which is a decent little detail. They also use that great rounded brown door. Always a big fan whenever Lego uses that piece specifically. And honestly, I don't hate the exterior that much on the set, guys. I think it looks pretty decent for a London tavern. If it was released nowadays, of course, there'd be a lot more detail, you know, masonry bricks and whatnot. But for 2011, I think this is pretty good and a really good build. When we look at the interior itself, while yes, it is basic, I don't know, I really love it. I love the fact that they have a little attic overhang here. I think that looks really nice. If they had that going through the whole set, I think it would be better. But obviously, structural-wise, that probably couldn't happen. There's also little details around, like the spider and the rat and the bucket. That's really cool. And they have a really cool barrel area here where it's on a slope and the barrels can go down, you know, barrels of ale or whatever. Honestly, I mean, I really like the interior of this set. It's not that much, but the detailing that's there make it look really nice, and there's a lot to expand from it. And I know a lot of people probably like, oh, it's bare, it's, you know, it's awful, fuck it, it's dog shit, but, you know, I like it. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 4183, The Mill. This is a fantastic set with an amazing build and a really great selection of figs. We have 4 pretty great figs. I'll talk about the Admiral Norrington, who I think is really nice. I love this torso print here. The way that the blue just pops off, it looks fantastic. The dark and the light blue, they look phenomenal. Not to mention this cool big belt buckle. I think that's a nice little print. And the legs, that leg printing is fantastic. I mean, when you look, it just continues like the coattails of the suit, and I think it just looks really nice. His head is pretty good. I don't think this fig actually needs the external beard like I thought like Barbossa did. In fact, in Dead Man's Chest, I think Norrington's, you know, facial hair reminds me a lot of Aragorn. And of course, Aragorn doesn't have an external beard, and I think he looks fantastic the way he is. So I really like the way that they did it on this fig. Not to mention the rest of the face print is just kind of fantastic. They go into a lot of detail with the facial hair, with the way it rises up towards the back. I think that's awesome. And I don't know, I just think it's a great face print. Honestly, it's a really really great fig. The other fig to talk about in this set is the Hadris, who I think is really cool. His printing is phenomenal. There's all these sea rocks all over him, which looks so nice. It's just such a great detail. Not to mention, this like conch shell mold on his head is a brilliant look. This is really a fantastic fig when you look at all the details. That conch shell is just a great piece though. I mean, it's so phenomenal. It's one of the best headdress piece, you know, hair piece that we've ever gotten in LEGO in my opinion. Gotta admit, I'm also a sucker for this color that they use, like this, I don't know if it's teal green, I'm not sure if it's just teal. Whatever this teal color is, I am such a sucker for it in LEGO sets. It just looks so nice. Usually they use it for sea creatures. Like I believe they use it for the mermaids in some of the Harry Potter sets. It just looks great here too. And honestly, it's a fantastic figure with all this beautiful detail. Let's move on to the builds. When talking about the mill itself, we just have to talk about its fantastic exterior. All this stone design that LEGO used to with the stickers was great for back then because we didn't have the masonry bricks. And honestly, even with the masonry bricks nowadays, I still like the way this looks. It's better than what LEGO still does a lot of times, just add no texture to the exterior. Here it adds a little texture. I think it's really nice. Not to mention, I just love a lot of the changing of different textures. We have the stone, but then we also have these rounded bricks over on this tower, which looks super nice. And we have some of these cheese slopes and like slope bricks all around, which add a phenomenal layer. I think they look great, and I really like the colors on the set. I love that it's not just homogeneous, you know, gray or whatever. The fact that they have brown and dark tan and even different grays, I think that is like perfect for the set, considering this is in an era when stuff wasn't built out of just stone. They had to use so many resources, so it makes sense why there's wood and other things just implemented in this build. It looks great in my opinion, exterior wise. Not to mention there is a little bit of foliage, not that much, but when it's added there, it does add a bit of character, and I do like it. So the interior is pretty bare, which isn't that big a deal to me, considering I wouldn't buy this set for the interior of this build. I think the exterior is phenomenal by itself. Not to mention what I'm going to get into after the interior. There is a bell, which is interesting. It does have a cool play feature where you can drop it down, and I think that's pretty cool. You know, it's like some LEGO Batman 2 shit, really, but I mean, it's not a great bell build, if we all agree. It looks kind of like shit in my opinion. No bell is peaking at the top and then just goes out randomly. You know, it's not the best bell build ever. The other part of the interior, there's a little area where there's like a bottle. That's about it. Honestly, it's a pretty bare interior. Now, the best play feature of the set, and one of the best play features in LEGO history in my opinion, is the mill itself. This thing is awesome. It's built really nice, by the way. It's a nice shape. It's not completely rounded, but of course, because it's LEGO and it's made out of bricks, it's not made of like a wheel or whatever. That kind of makes sense, especially for this era. I think it looks nice, honestly. I think I like the way they interchange the colors. It's not just, you know, just brown. It looks a lot more appealing this way. But I really like the play feature of it in itself, where you could spin it and then you pop it off and it just kind of spins towards you. It's honestly a great feature. I mean, it sucks. I guess you can't have a minifig run in it, but that's kind of impractical. You know, in fact, maybe impossible, you know? Unless you added like some balancing act inside the wheel, it wouldn't work. I love the play feature for this. It's kind of awesome when you think about it. And honestly, this is a great set. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 4194 Whitecap Bay. This is a set with a very interesting minifig selection and a really good build. Two of the best minifigs of the set are these mermaids. I'm first going to talk about the mermaid curved tail, as it's called by Brickset. It's a pretty solid fig. I really like the head and hair combo. It's simple enough to where it combines really nice. As you could probably tell already, I was a huge fan of the expressions during this time with LEGO, and this one's no different. It's simple enough, but it has enough little interesting details to make it look really fantastic. I mean, honestly, just by looking at it, you can see there's something off. It's really with the eyebrow change. That's the big thing for me. Also, the smile not being symmetrical. I think that adds a fair bit of detail. You know, it's not a perfect print in a sense where it's not just symmetrical. It has a little bit of interesting, unique detail. And of course, the printing on the rest of the fig is really nice. On the torso, it looks really good. Obviously, I'm sure from a lot of modern LEGO creators, they'd be like, oh, but the printing's not around the side, you know, 0 out of 10. Like, we're still getting a lot of that from LEGO now. I mean, that'd be a crazy thing to care about. The printing otherwise is great, though. I mean, we have all the scaly printing or wrinkle printing, whatever you'd like to call it. We have a kind of weird, you know, overhang she's wearing. I guess I would call it a top. Yeah, that's what it is, a top. And there's also printing on the molded tailpiece on the bottom, which is really nice considering usually Lego has given us some molded tailpieces for mermaids in the past, but I don't really remember a lot of printing like this. Lego was really good with detail on their figs like around this time, and I really love it. Next is the Mermaid Serena, which while it does have similarities to the other mermaid, especially with some of the printing details, it is different, of course, with the head and hair print. The head print's really interesting on this fig. Again, it is a very interesting head print. It has a really cool detail here with like a teardrop coming down, which I think looks really nice. It actually translated really nice. Obviously, Lego has made some faces where they're more blue and they're more seeable, but honestly, if you don't want the teardrop for some odd reason and you just want the face otherwise, you could probably take it off very easily. That's not a real critique in my opinion, but I don't know. I just think it's a solid face print. And the torso and leg printing here, of course, fantastic like the last fig, except it's in blue, and you know, that's my favorite color, so this has to get an automatic dub over the last fig. The next fig of the set is the Philip Swift. Is a pretty good fig, honestly. I really love the head print here. Of course, this has the same effect I talked about with the last two figs, where it looks like it could be a normal face, but they have little details slightly off, such as the mouth not being on an even plane and kind of going down towards the right a little bit, which is interesting. Not to mention the eyebrows, of course, on a different plane. It really adds character to these face prints, and I love it. If there is an issue with the fig, it is if that V-neck area, if that is supposed to be a skin that is way off print from the color. Lego has had issues with this before, especially for pale minifigs. Now, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a shirt under or whatever. I don't think it is, though. I think it's a skin, and it does look really weird. Otherwise than that, though, the torso print's really nice. It has a lot of great detailing, especially along the inseam where you could see this nice little gray pattern. It looks really cool. I really like this fig, honestly. It's just a nice, put-together, well-rounded fig. And the last fig to talk about in the set is the Scrum. This is a really good fig. He has a really interesting face print with all this detailing, including the stubble and the scar right next to his eye. That looks really nice. And when you look at the torso and leg printing, it actually is pretty nice on the fig. Of course, this one definitely has the issue where the skin is off color, which makes me think that Philip Swift is actually skin, which would make sense. You could just tell it is here with the necklace. I just wouldn't presume otherwise. But I really love a lot of the other detailing on this fig. This nice pinstripe pattern down there on the bottom, not to mention it just changing levels with the green, the belt, the pinstripe, then the green again. That looks nice. And also the nice extended printing on the torso, which goes straight down to the legs. It looks really nice. I really like this fig. The build for this set is really phenomenal. Whether it's the exterior design of the set with some great sticker detailing, which makes it bricks and aged and whatnot, or it's the facades with cool textures, adding these little 2x1 vent pieces on there that make it look super nice, or it's just the colors in general, just dark bluish gray and this reddish brown work really well off each other. Honestly, it just looks kind of sick. There are some cool little play features, including this one all the way on the left with this barrel where you can, you know, tip it over and it's supposed to knock the water down. Theoretically, though, if you tip it down, it might not, because that top fits perfectly on that barrel piece, so you're gonna have to make some adjustment, maybe put it very loosely on there and it'll work perfectly. I still think it's a pretty cool idea, though, and it is executed fairly well. There's also the cannon area over here, which I love this. This is really cool. The cannon's on a slider, and you can just slide it through those big two doors, and it just pops right out. It's honestly really cool. I mean, while sure, maybe I would have preferred an entrance, it doesn't really matter, considering it makes the playability of the set phenomenal, and it really is an awesome play feature. While the interior of the set isn't memorable, really, it has a couple of decent little things. There's this little box in this area, and then on the bottom floor we have this little seating area with this protractor tool, which I guess is a really nice piece. The second floor as well has a really cool play feature where the sidewalls explode. It works really well, actually. You do it by going out in the front and pushing a bar like to both sides to get both sides exploding. It's just honestly a really cool play feature. And on top of Whitecap Bay, which kind of looks immaculate in my opinion, the way that it tops off, it looks beautiful, there is a light brick kind of spotlight deal. It's really cool. They use the magnifying glass piece in front of it, which is a nice little touch. I really like it. This set is a phenomenal play set, one of the best from this theme, and it's awesome. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 71402 Silent Mary. This is a fantastic set with a great build and some pretty good figs. First fig of the set to talk about is the Jack Sparrow. Yes, this is exclusive. You may not be able to tell just from looking at it abroad, but it is. Everything about him is exclusive. His face print is slightly different because there's a little X scar on it. And the big thing about this Jack Sparrow that's different from the other ones is definitely a lot more detailed because, of course, you know, there's a 6-year fucking gap in between the figs. So more printing, more detailing, all that stuff. But there's this transparent pattern going all around him. It's mainly noticeable in the bandana at the top. It's like this Caribbean type pattern. It's also in the dark blue everywhere. It looks super nice in my opinion. Honestly, he's just a little more detailed than the other ones. He does have the issue that those 2011 figs have where his V-neck area, you know, his chest area, his whatever you want to call it area, is slightly different, pale from the other. It pisses me off. I don't get it, but it's okay, you know. Legos just need to up their quality sometimes. The detailing here is just a little different. It's just a little more than it is on the 2011 fig, and I think it looks super nice. Next to talk about is the Henry Turner, and this fig is like 99% there. I like so much about him. I love the hair. The torso is phenomenal. I really love the detailing on this. It's just the face. While sure, the face fits the character fairly well, I don't know, man. Lego uses this face so much, it's tainted it for me. It fits the character okay, but they could have probably done a better one with thinner eyebrows, you know? That face, man, it's ruining almost every fig that it's used on for me now. I don't hate it or anything. It works well for some characters. It just looks weird on this character, especially with the hair color. It's not my thing. It was almost there, guys. Almost there. Next is the Karina Smith. Yeah, this fig doesn't really do much for me. I mean, the torso and legs, pretty decent. Nice little dress pieces. Otherwise than that, especially in that color, might I add. That's a cool color to add them in. But otherwise than that, I mean, the face print, really, and the hair pieces, whatever. I don't know. I haven't seen this movie, so the accuracy determination isn't completely there, but it's a whatever fig. It's a throwaway fig in my opinion. Now, I'm going to talk about all these ghost phantoms, whatever they are, you know, all in the same little voiceover because it's going to just be too long if we go over them one by one. And honestly, most of them are pretty much the same. They have really cool pirate torso prints, especially with that gray and white. That looks cool, and the button detail, of course, is even better than the ones on the 2012 just because it's newer. The printing's a lot nicer. Their heads are all really cool. I mean, I really like this transparent one especially. It looks super nice, and they all have different expressions. Super nice to get exclusivity on all of these figs, and honestly, they're really good figs. And that hat piece with the printing, perfect. Not to mention this leg printing, dog. I know I shit on people who like to, you know, go out and say, oh man, you know, if it doesn't have leg printing, I'm gonna kill myself. But like, when we get it, you know, it's a W, you know. I feel you sometimes. It's a W, especially with this one with the transparent little leg here. Oh my days, bro. That shit looks nice. Otherwise than that, though, these are just solid, nice figs, and they're a great inclusion to the set. Then there's the Silent Mary masthead. Don't really know if I should count this as a fig because it's on the ship, but it's whatever. It's a decent fig. It has a really cool torso print, and the head print's really unique. It's a unique little fig. There's not much to say. When we move on to the build of the Silent Mary itself, this is kind of a fantastic build in my opinion. There's so much to love about it. Whether it's the torn up sails or some of the other nice little detailing such as the colors, or one of the greatest play features. I mean, this line is full of great play features, but this is another fantastic one where you can bend around the ship so you can make it look like it's eating another ship. You know, that's just kind of really cool. Honestly, from this picture and from a lot of the pictures that are shown, I honestly thought it was way smaller than the other two ships from this theme, but it's actually a pretty decent size in comparison even. It looks super nice. I just love the rickety, you know, dead feel that it has. It's all broken apart at the bottom and at the top. It's a perfectly standing ship area, and that's definitely because of these supports at the bottom. They really help it just go through. It's super nice. Not to mention, this set has the best cannon detailing on any of the ships that are gonna, you know, come up after this. Hint, hint. Because the cannons just are super nice. They're a lot more modern. They're on ball joints, so you can move them around a lot more. I just love this part that they use a lot more than I do for the other sets. The colors are just fantastic too. When you look around, you got this reddish brown, you got gold, you got the army green as I call it, and you got that dark brown. It all just blends together so nicely. Oh, you also got black, of course. If there's one more thing to talk about, it's the sail that bends over, it tips over. I think that's a really cool detail in my opinion. When you look at pictures of the ship from the movie, you could see that this sail is down and it makes it look like it's dead and like no longer a ship. It's such a cool detail. Honestly, the ship build is phenomenal. It's really fantastic, and it's a really great set. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 4195 Queen Anne's Revenge. This is so close with number 1. It was so hard for me to pick. I eventually went with this for 2 reasons, and it was so hard. The minifigs in the set are really good, and the build is fantastic. One of the big problems with this set, in my opinion, is there's really only 2 to 3 minifigs that are real highlights of the set. Most of these have come in other sets, and they were, you know, much better value in other sets. One of them to talk about for sure is the Angelica. I really like this fig. I especially love the face print. It has like this, I don't know, this wide look, this almost drunkish look, this sluggish look. You know, it looks very cool to me. The hat and hair piece is also really cool. It's a combined piece. It's one mold. That's awesome in my opinion. It looks so nice. I'm glad that Lego did this back then. Sometimes Lego used to a lot, you know, give us just the hat and no hair, mainly with males, not really with women, but here they gave, and it doesn't work with women, to be honest, because usually a lot of women tend to have longer hair and it tends to be more prevalent. But here it just works perfectly with the combined mold. It's an awesome part. And the detailing on her torso, this French quarter pattern, this golden dark green color, this amulet around her neck. I will say it does have the issue of the miscolor printing of the skin, which happens pretty much to every fig around this area, you know, so I can get over it a little bit, but, you know, it's still a bad detail. Nonetheless, though, I really like this fig. Next fig of the set to talk about is the Cook. There's not much to say about this guy. He has a really cool leg print. I really like this detail of the fork and the cleaver. I think that looks pretty cool, especially hanging off that little waistline thing. And, of course, the little apron at the bottom. That's nice. Torso print's all right, too. It has this cool button pattern on the side. Does have the issue, of course, skin not matching. Otherwise than that, though, he's a whatever fig. I mean, the face is decent. It's really weird, though. Like, it looks like you'd put it on a really weird person, if you know what I mean. It's just a whatever fig, in my opinion. The hat's also cool, I guess. It's in a unique color. Otherwise than that, though, like, whatever. The next fig to talk about is the Quartermaster Zombie. This fig's actually really cool, and there's one really cool detail in this fig I'd like to talk about. The detail I want to talk about is on the head print. Now, this head print may look familiar to you if you're a DC fan. That's because this is the same facial expression and almost the same eye and the same eyebrow position as the 2012 Two-Face. You can't unsee it, guys. You just can't. It makes a lot of sense. Lego just used these common, you know, the mouth, the eyes. They just put it on the Two-Face, and I don't hate it that much. This is actually a really cool detail in my opinion. Face print also has some really cool wrinkle details, you know, obviously the circles and the lines. Looks nice. Torso print, pretty good. Oh man, it's so noticeable here. The color change, you could just tell from a mile away. The detailing's so nice on it too. This vest on the side is awesome, and like the key around the neck looks cool. The torso looks like something someone from an Uncharted or a Far Cry game would be wearing, if you know what I mean, right? And you know, the rope as a belt's really cool, though it does cut off really weird with the legs, which is odd. Otherwise than that, though, I think this is my favorite fig of the set. Otherwise than maybe some of the duplicates. Like, this is a fantastic fig. I didn't know if I was going to discuss this guy or not, but there is a skeleton. It's the masthead with the orange torso. Orange torso is cool. Otherwise than that, it's a skeleton. Nothing much to say. Now we move on to the build of the set, which is the ship. And I mean, come on, guys. This is just fantastic. It's such a good ship build. There's so many cool things. Whether it's these awesome canvas, you know, sails that have a great print on them with the swords, or the ones without them that are shaped nicely. It's the flag all the way on the top, which looks really cool. Some of the detailing all around, like the cannons, which looks super nice. They aren't as mobile as the cannons from the Silent Mary, but I still really like them. It's the balconies with the skeleton heads, which is just such a cool detail in my opinion. Honestly, a lot of the stuff about the ship is nice. Oh, the anchor too. The anchor's an amazing detail. There's a really cool bowsprit as well at the front. It's long. It's built with these Technic bricks. And it kind of is just a nice feature in my opinion. You could put a stud in there and have a minifig stand on top of it. Obviously, the masthead's below that. That's really cool. Honestly, the skeleton detailing all around is really nice. You can even see it up here with the torso and the hands and the, you know, the bones. I really love that. When we look a little more in, we have the captain's area, which is just an average captain's area. You know, it does have these 2 torches to the side. It does have the steering wheel, which is obviously a super nice piece. I think I only have one of those, but I love that part so much. And, I mean, it's okay. There's not much to it. Below it, there's a little area below it, which is just like little shaded deck area, and it's okay. There's not much here, to be honest. There's a little table, though. That's pretty cool. There's some knickknacks on it, you know, pretty average. Honestly, this whole deck area is pretty cool, but it's not very detailed. And this is one of the areas I actually like more in the other ship, a lot more. So I'll talk about that when I get to it. I do also have to mention these back panes are beautiful. These printed window panes, they just look so nice in my opinion. I don't know, maybe you guys don't agree, but I mean, they look so sick, bro. On the deck itself, there are some cool features, such as this anchor feature where you can twist this little knob and it'll move the chain in. I think that's really cool. Not to mention there's like boxes of ammo and stuff. There's not much to talk about, but I do have to say I'm a really big sucker for a build like this where there's a lot of room on the deck, because I've always been a fan of like kind of that army sense of minifigs where you can put a lot on there. It could feel overcrowded like an actual pirate ship. I really like that in my opinion. Overall, this is a fucking fantastic set, guys. I would love to have it one day if, you know, that was ever to be. But otherwise than that, I love it. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. In first place on the ranking is set 4184, the Black Pearl. Now, I know you guys are saying, oh, the last set's bigger, it's a better ship, you know, it looks a lot nicer, all of these things. And I can agree with you on a certain thing, which is that the ship from the last set is probably better than the ship from this set. But I look at the whole package, and I think this whole package is better than the whole package you get with the last set. Hear me out. Starting out with the great minifigs, I gotta talk about this Davy Jones. This minifig is phenomenal. This is probably the best way they could have interpreted this fig, unless it's like some molded head or some weird thing. Obviously, they weren't gonna do that back in 2011 when the set came out. So what we got instead was really good. We gotta talk about the beard piece when we're talking about this Davy Jones fig. It's such an amazing molded part that they have on this fig. There's some great detailing here with these little dots all around meant to represent the barnacles or maybe just like some water drippage. It looks super nice. It's a great texture. Not to mention all the little curves of the tentacles all around. Amazing detail. Face print's also really good. Has these really cool eyes, especially these blue eyes. That looks awesome. And his hat has this really cool, you know, pattern on the top with the green and all the rock, the sea rock. It looks so nice. The peg leg and the claw are also immaculate details. They're both in that same color, that kind of nougat, you know, color. It looks really nice. Honestly, this is probably the best fig in the entire theme. It's so good. I love this fig. It's a great fig. The next fig is the Makis or Makis. It's one of the two for sure. This is another fantastic fig. His printing is amazing as well, but he has this really cool like bonnet head mold on the top, which just looks super nice in my opinion. There's a lot of these little circular details, you know, probably more sea rock, and there's also the eye detail where one of the eyes on the left is closed, but the one on the right's open. Meanwhile, on his actual face, you know, the eye on the left is open, but the eye on the right is closed. I think that looks really nice in my opinion. Not to mention all the face and torso printing. It all looks really good, especially like this red rock, changing it up a little bit, and this like half torn, you know, scar across his torso. It just looks really nice. This is another fantastic fig. Then we have the Bootstrap Bill, who I think is just phenomenal. I love the detailing on him, especially with his face print, with these awful looking sores and this great sea rock. It looks so nice. Also the starfish print, I mean, come on guys, the face is elite. And the torso is really good too. You can tell it's really old, raggedy clothes, you know, with a very thin, you know, inline up at the neck area, which looks super nice. And all the rock detail down there, it looks super good. I love this fig. Another great fig. Bangers, dude. There is also an exclusive Jack Sparrow in this set. The only thing really exclusive about him is his torso, but it is a nice torso after all. Is it as good as the normal one? Probably not, but it is a good alternative nonetheless. Moving on to the build, we have this stunning pirate ship. Now, as I previously stated, of course, I don't think this pirate ship is as good as the last one. Do I think it looks better? Maybe, maybe not. It's hard for me to tell, to be honest. I just think overall the last one's a little better, but hey, let's talk about some of the great parts about this. The exterior of this ship is very slick. The last one was a lot more detailed, you know, with the skeletons and whatnot. This one's a lot more slick with this beautiful, sleek black color. It looks really nice. Not to mention the way that it blends in with the edge out for the captain's cabin. That's sweet. Also, it has the black sails, which is awesome. That LEGO didn't cheap out on that at all and make them, like, look weird. They actually look darker black, which I think works a lot better for the bricks. When we go a little more depth into the ship, we start to see a little more. One of the reasons that I like this ship more than I like the last one, it's such a specific, you know, bias, you know, wow, this is a C in our opinion, clearly. Like, one of just my things that I really like is that we have a captain's cabin that's actually like indoors and under, you know, the driving area. I'm sorry, I'm not that good with ship areas, but right below it we have an actual indoor captain's area, and it's really cool. Honestly, there's a little bit of cool things in this room. It's a desk with a map and one of these protractor parts, also a bottle. Honestly, I just prefer this so much more than what they gave us in the other set. I thought the other set, it just was like a bland little area with a table, while this is, you could say, a bland little area with a table. It also has a nice cool chair. You know, you can do a lot more with this. There's a lot, it just feels a lot more spacious in my opinion. I just like it a lot more. Not to mention, you can take the top off and take the flaps out to make it a lot more expanded. That looks nice in my opinion. I really like it. Now, when we go to the main deck itself, all that's really there is the same thing in the last ship, which is just cannons and, you know, a little area of ammo. But I love it, honestly. It's just like the last one where there's a lot of area for figs. Of course, not as much because that was a longer ship. But here, there's just a lot of area for figs. I did say that the cannons in the Silent Mary set were my favorite. I only said that because of the ball joints. Looking at these now, I do like these cannon pieces a lot more because they are the molded cannon pieces, and they're just super nice in my opinion. I love these parts. I have one of these from a Lone Ranger set, and I truly think they are fantastic. Honestly, this set is fantastic, and this theme is great. I want to thank you all for watching this. It was sorry for taking so long in it. It's been a cool trip for me too. Don't worry. It's been, yeah, a year in the making, I guess. Not really. I definitely haven't been working on this for a year, especially productively. I haven't been working on it for a year. No, I'm trying to get more rankings out this year, guys. It's been a ride the last year, that's for damn sure. But no, I hope you liked it. I do like these sets. Again, hopefully next one I'm gonna make is gonna be either the DC, another DC one, or it's gonna be on the TMNT sets. Either one of those will be really cool. I actually I'm a lot more invested personally in those than I am in this theme, and I like talking about this theme. Like, it's a couple of sets that are cool to look at because I have looked at them previously, and there are a couple that I like, but it's not really been a theme I've cared that much for until now. I've gotten requests for it from a couple of people and my friends, so decided to do it. You know, glad you all stuck around to hear me ramble. You know, I like the yap, as you can tell, about Lego especially, so thank you all so much, and yeah, next one won't be like as big a gap. See ya.